stairs. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the
What's up,
middle.
everybody? This is Trip.
And I'm Jim.
And this is Dead Center, where we try to conversate, not concentrate, and
Get to the point.
And today's point is Ukraine and Russia.
And Russia, yeah.
And Vladimir Putin.
And Crimea and
the whole
what's that,
freaking
that
area. The
strait
Kerch
right
Strait,
there?
the Kerch Strait, the Azov Sea, all of it. All of it. So, just to start, I mean, let's
Story
just get
time.
into it. Yeah, story time. So, the Russians and Ukraine have a treaty worked out with the Kerch Strait where they both use it and blah, blah, blah for trade purposes. There's even a bridge that put them together going across the strait. Russia came out at, about a month ago, maybe a little bit less, and said that...
Real quick, they also technically both claim the same area of Crimea, which is across from Ukraine.
Yeah,
It's not like Russia's across it. It's Russia annexed part of what Ukraine also considers it.
Well, yeah, let me not sit here and act like this is all peachy, right? Because I know I'm kind of upbeat and happy because that's just kind of my personality. But no, this is a BFD, and it needs to be taken as such. So anyways, getting back to it, Russia said, you guys can't come through these waters right now. We're doing this and that, repairs for some of the docking, transferring stuff like that. Either way, they said you can't come through it. And Ukraine was like, well, you didn't tell us that. And they sailed through the area that Russia said don't sail in. Russia attacked the ships. There were 3 of them, injured 3 sailors. They say 3, Ukraine says 6. Rammed a tugboat and took these ships hostage and captive. And now Ukraine's calling it an act of war, which
I don't know what else it is.
yeah, I mean you can't, especially the way Russia is.
A little bit of devil's advocate here.
That's fine.
To Ukraine's point, the date that Russia was claiming that they gave notice that this part of the strait was closed off was before Ukraine actually sailed through, probably 2 weeks prior to this instance, and they sailed through just fine. And then this time, they brought warships and a tugboat specifically to move Russian ships out of the way, apparently.
So maybe Russia thought it was partially aggression on
right.
Ukraine's part.
So according to Russia, if I'm going to give Russia's perspective,
I can't
real quick,
roll my eyes harder according to Russia. But continue.
But the way this is they gave notice that they were doing this. They only closed off part of the strait, and the part of the strait that they closed off, they gave significant notice, and they had boats there to defend it. And Ukraine, knowing those boats were in their way, and knowing this is a little bit of a flex on them as well, kind of stepped up with, okay, well, we're going to get these boats through. We're going to get some military boats through, and we're going to bring it to move your boats out of the way. Mm-hmm. And that was the way Russia saw it. So Russia saw it coming and preemptively struck.
It's a big mess. You're looking at Ukraine, who's still pissed off about Crimea, which was in 2014. And you've got a Vladimir Putin that doesn't care. He will push until he meets the wall.
Right, and this is another one of those towing the line kind of things.
He did it with Obama. He did it with Bush. He's doing it with Trump.
Right, and the thing is we technically, by we I mean NATO.
Right.
Technically has a treaty with the Ukraine.
Well, they gave us their nukes.
Right, Ukraine, well, specifically Russia.
Right.
At the time, it was the USSR falling, and NATO said, look, give up your nukes, give them back to Russia, and we have your back if Russia decides to have aggression towards you. I mean, at the time, it was very, obvious that Russia was the probable aggressor, but technically speaking, we have a NATO alliance with the Ukraine to back them in case of this type of aggression.
Well, at this point, it's been a week. It doesn't seem like it's cooled off at all. Ukraine's still pissed. The hostages haven't been released as far as I know. The boats haven't been released as far as I know. It's still an ongoing thing. And Ukraine they're pissed. They want to go to war. And Russia's sitting there licking their chops, I would assume, because I honestly don't think Vladimir Putin thinks that Trump is going to back them. Because honestly, who do you think makes Vladimir Putin sweat? Would it be the Americans and the Europeans backing Ukraine, or just the Europeans backing Ukraine?
I mean,
and I know that might be kind of a skewed way to look at it, so to speak, but again, like, I don't know.
If the other NATO member states decide that this is something that NATO needs to intervene on, or the UN even needs to intervene upon, then the United States is where a good chunk of those resources come from.
Well, and to be fair, Donald Trump has policy-wise been way harder on Russia than previous presidents. He's put multiple sanctions on them. He has pushed out.
Are these sanctions adhered to?
Probably not, but when are they ever?
I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. But his administration has pushed like warships over into the area. There's been a lot of policy decisions that, while Trump's rhetoric towards Russia has been, borderline friendly, the policy doesn't necessarily match that. And I think that might be an underhanded way to try to, make it look good as far as the relationship with Russia. But I think at the end of the day, if all they're doing is sanctions and stuff, I don't think Vladimir Putin cares.
Especially if they're not adhered to.
Right. And that's the part where he doesn't care. So it's going to be freaking interesting to see, but let me not downplay this at all. Like, this is a serious deal. This could result in this could have a Syria effect if it continues, right? If nobody's willing to back down and they go to war, you could be looking at a proxy war.
There's a few possibilities, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The one, there's probably three really likely possibilities. And again, anyone out there with more knowledge in international relations and the workings and policies of the UN or of NATO, please shout out to us.
Absolutely.
Let us know how wrong we are. But here's how I understand it. There's either the possibility, number one, and probably the most likely, the two sides yell at each other for a long time, and it's more like an Israel situation than anything else. NATO backs off because of a bunch of promises of sanctions. Russia, basically says, yeah, we'll do it, and then they don't. And then everyone...
They let the fire die down and then wait till the next...
It fizzles out. Russia closes off maybe a smaller portion or agrees to let them through per the treaty or something like that.
Or give the prisoners back.
Well, that's... look, there is the possibility... there is the possibility they refuse to give those prisoners back. And then you're looking at the other two that I thought of. And the first is NATO or the UN decides that this is something that needs to be acted upon with more than sanctions. And in some sort of fashion,
in some conflict.
Well, it would have the possibility of conflict because the first thing you're going to have is the UN or NATO come out with a demand on the Ukraine's behalf. Because, of course, the Ukraine's already saying, give us our guys back, give us our ships back.
Yeah.
But if NATO or the UN comes in and says, give them their ships back, give them their guys back, then that holds a little bit more water. And if they still say, nana boo boo, stick your head in doo doo, then we might have...
Nanny boo boo.
We might have more of like a third option where someone actually does turn to conflict. The most likely being the Ukraine going first, knowing that they have the backing of NATO and the UN.
Well, that's the reason for deterrence, right? So to speak. This should be an opportunity for NATO specifically to step up and say, hey, let's not do this because we know where it can go. Right? We had the Cold War. Let's not go there. Let's not do this. And to the other point, Russia will stop if they hit a wall, depending on how big that wall is. Sometimes you have to flex. Donald Trump had no problem flexing in Syria, especially a year later when France and Britain said it was cool and they decided to join in. Sometimes if you don't want to go to war, you have to threaten people with war. Sometimes if you want somebody to stand down, a bully such as Russia, you have to say, hey, I'm not taking your crap, and neither is the rest of the world. And I'm not specifically saying Ukraine should be the one to say that, because I think they fall immediately without anybody else's help. But they have us in that treaty for a reason. They have our help in that treaty for a reason. And as the world power, militarily at least, we have to be willing to stand up when our treaties and our allies are involved. And that's kind of the big deal. Not a lot of people want to say that. Somebody may call me hawkish. You know what? Russia has been crap since crap was crap. And I know that didn't make a whole lot of sense, but they've been Russia. They're the bully who bullies and bullies until the bigger kid comes in and says, knock it off, and pushes them through a wall, right? That's Russia. And that's how they've always been. And as of the last 20 years, with Bush, with Obama, drawing his red line in the sand, with Trump. I mean, hell, Trump sent all those freaking missiles to blow up that airfield for a big old fireworks show that we talked about previously. You know, he's not afraid to flex his muscles when he doesn't think that his defenders are going to get involved. I think he considers Vladimir Putin a defender. It's going to be interesting to see how he handles this. But I think in order to quell the Russia nonsense, you have to stand up to the Russia nonsense. And not just... let's be honest, sanctions don't work half the time with people who don't care about them. What are you really doing? They have an economy the size of Italy anyways. You know what I mean? If they're not adhering to him, do you think Vladimir Putin, the oligarch that he is, gives a damn? He's worried about Mother Russia. That's it. So let's not kid ourselves. That's just kind of my soapbox on the subject.
Like I said, the main thing I'm looking at is Russia has always been known to do these little flex exercises. Mm-hmm. And ever since Vladimir Putin has been in power, they've been towing every line in the sand that's been drawn.
Absolutely. He's at KGB. It's what he does. It's what he knows.
Well, testing for weak points.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah.
So the long short of it is if he decides that the Ukraine is a weak point and that no one's going to do anything because they know if they act by the book, it's going to be, hey, this was war, so... And in that case, he either A, ignores the sanctions and there's a continued problem, or B, we tell him that there's going to be some sort of retaliation if he doesn't follow, X, Y, and Z, and then he half-asses X and then tells us to where to shove it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It should be unfolding here within the next month, so maybe there's going to be a part 2. But
we'll see, but that's pretty much it for now.
Yeah, so, with that being said, I'm Trip.
And I'm Jim.
And this is Dead Center, where we try to conversate, not constant hate, and
get to the point.
Love y'all. See y'all next time.
Well, I don't know why I came here tonight. I got the feeling that something ain't right. I'm so scared in case I fall off my chair, and I'm wondering how I'll get down the stairs.